Hey guys, it's Paige Poppe. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about working as an artist and more specifically work environments. So I'm going to be sharing my perspective on working from a studio versus working from home, and I do have perspective on both sides of this. I have worked from my home, had like just a corner of my home to having a home office, but I've also worked in a studio space that I was renting with other artists, so I feel that I can have a pretty good perspective and share what worked and what didn't work for me in both situations. So I thought it would be pretty interesting. If you happen to be new here and you don't know what kind of art I make or aren't familiar with me already, I think that might be kind of important for me to share, just so you can like visualize in your head like what I'm doing in each of these studio spaces. If you happen to be new here and aren't familiar with my work, I think it might be kind of important just to touch on what kind of art I do so that you can visualize what I'm doing in each of these spaces. So I am an artist. I'm primarily a painter, so I work in watercolor and acrylic, but I also do illustration. So my work varies. Sometimes I do have very large canvases, but a lot of the times I'm also just working on paper. But also a huge part of what I do is running the back end of my business. So I'm on the computer a lot. I am often filming like I am now. I'm shipping orders. I'm doing Photoshop work, a lot of emails. I should talk about that in a future video because I think some people might be surprised how much of a percentage I actually spend doing like non-art related things. A lot of it is admin, email, invoicing, contracts. So a big part of my business is that too. So a lot of times I only need a desk to work from, but I do need to also have painting space. So I guess a good way to say it is that my needs change, and I usually need a space that can fluctuate and change with me and like be rearrangeable. Which I was able to do in both my studio space and my work from home office space, home studio, home office, call it whatever you want. But I usually have to have areas set up for both because I also print my own art prints in-house, so there has to be kind of like a tech area, like clean. Some parts of it can get super messy. I'm not just like going wild throwing paint everywhere, but I will get into all of that in this video. I also did have the idea to film this for a while, and I had kind of forgotten about it, and I was reminded of it when I got a comment on Friday's vlog, and someone was like, hey, do you still have the studio space you were renting, because it hasn't really been in your vlogs recently. So this video can address that too. And no, I do not have my studio space outside of my house anymore that I was renting. To give you some background, I rented that space from March to June. I actually was there for like 3 months of paid rent, and the studio space was month to month, so I didn't make like a 6-month or a year commitment or anything, which was nice because I had a feeling it might be temporary for me. And later on in this video, I'm basically gonna go into a pro and con list of like a outside of your home studio and then a home studio. But first I'll talk a little bit more about my studio experience. So before I had rented the studio space I had in Scottsdale, I was working from home, but I did not have a designated room for my work. I literally was working out of a corner of my bedroom, and so I had a desk, I had a dresser that was kind of extra storage, and then I ended up moving my desk to another side of the room, and I had like half of my closet to work from. But honestly, now I realize like minimum I need a 10 by 10 space and a little bit extra for storage. So I don't know how I did it. I ran my business for a long time in that situation, like almost a year. So it worked well for me. I made it work until I was presented with another opportunity, which was this studio space in Scottsdale, and it was actually a very new rentable space that popped up, and it had not existed before. I think the construction finished in like February, and I had kind of learned about it in January. And then I was walking by one day, it happens to be next door to my favorite coffee shop, and I looked in the window and I saw that they had openings for studio spaces for artists, so I reached out. And when it worked with my budget, I was like, this is an amazing opportunity. Like, I didn't know how I could pass it up, and it's the kind of thing where I was like, I need to try this. I need to see what this is like, if it works for me, if it doesn't. And once again, the month-to-month flexibility was very nice because if I didn't end up liking it, I could leave. At the time, I also kind of knew that Jake and I were planning to move in together, and we weren't sure exactly when that would happen, but we were shooting for end of May. So that's kind of why I knew the studio space might be temporary, and it would be dependent on what kind of place we found. So fast forward to May, we did find this condo that I'm in now, and it had 2 bedroom, 2 bath, which was amazing because it meant that we could have an office space. So we actually share my home office now. So when we moved in mid-May, I still have the studio, and I just decided that I would continue my rent period until June. And so I did have it until somewhere in the middle of June, and it kind of gave me enough time to transition my studio into our home and then move out of the studio space there. And towards the end, I wasn't using it very much because I loved the home studio so much. So it was good for me to have a transition period where I could see like, hey, does the home studio work for me? Because I wasn't 100% sure. Before, I had been working out of like a corner of my room, so I figured that a bigger dedicated space for my business would be amazing, but I wasn't 100% sure. So it was good to have that like 3-week transition period, and I ended up loving working from home. So I did leave the studio, and it was a bummer because there were a lot of great artists there that I was friends with. The artist behind me is really cool. We still Snapchat, and the owner was really great. All of the management, the location is awesome. I still see it often. I stop in there sometimes. It is next door to my favorite coffee shop, so I'm always around. So it was kind of hard to do that, but in the end, I did what made sense for me. And when we had this whole office space at home, I was like, why not do this? This is great. It means I got to see Jake more and just be home, and I got to enjoy our home more. And I realized that working from home really is the dream. Like for me, the goal is always just to be an artist and be able to continue maintaining that career for myself. But it never clicked for me how much of a luxury it is to work from home and how nice it is and easy and fun. So when I kind of started to realize that, I was like, okay, it's a no-brainer. I'm gonna work from home now. So I do work from home only now, but I do go to coffee shops and like other places quite often. I think it's really important to go on coffee dates with friends or go work at a coffee shop, just like get out of your environment a little bit. I've always been a supporter of like getting out of your environment and changing things up. One thing I do at home is I actually move around the house a bit when I'm working. So I'm really focused when I'm working from home, so I don't always want to leave, but I do have my office space, and there's like 2 desks in there, and Jake actually has his desk in there too, so sometimes we work in there together. But then sometimes I will come work out in the living room, like at the kitchen table, because we have such high ceilings that it's really nice for me to just be out in the open. Sometimes if I'm just going to answer emails or do some sketches, I will cozy up on the couch with a blanket. Or if I'm packing orders or something, I can even just like put a show on. I have a little chair sitting area out there that I also work at if I want to like hunker down. And then I have this space in here, which I usually film in, and I try to keep this more of like a tech-free zone. Like I don't come in here and answer emails, because I try to make it more relaxing, like for reading. But basically what I'm trying to get at is that I have a lot of designated areas in our home to give myself a change of environment. But then sometimes you do need to like go that extra mile and just leave, go to a coffee shop, get out. So I hope that answers any questions you guys had about where I was working. I know it was a little bit confusing. I know I never made like a formal announcement, and it's already September. So I moved out in June. That's crazy. I didn't mean to like keep you guys in the dark, but I felt like I was so excited and happy about that studio space, and you guys know, like, I literally cried in the vlog. So I didn't really want to come on here and be like, well, I don't have that anymore. And I was honestly a little bit afraid of what people would think of it, like if I couldn't afford it or something. But I honestly just did what was best for me and my business and the environment I wanted to work in. And I was so happy working here. I was like, this is a change I want to make. And some people did know which studio space I worked out of, and I didn't want to like have any bad vibes around that, because there's nothing wrong with the studio space. It was just my preference. So that's where I am now. And I do think that when I like cried in that vlog, yes, it was because the studio space was exciting, but it was also more so about like me continuing to move forward with my life, my goals, my business, and my art career. And so it felt like a new step, and I was just grateful that I had gotten to a new point where I could now have my own studio space and work from there. But I don't think that success has like an end game. Like, I don't think that my studio was like the most successful I could be, now I've like downgraded. I just see it as like this ever-changing kind of flow, and you have to find what works best for you. And like honestly, ever since I moved in here into my home office, I feel like I've just had a lot of abundance, and I mean that in the most like humble way. Like I've had a lot of opportunities I'm really excited about. I feel like a lot of the commissions and, like I said, opportunities, like partnerships that have come my way have been very in line with my goals and what I want to be doing. So it's just been a good sign, and it's been very easy for me to work from here. And yeah, it's just been very positive. So I have to say I'm very happy, but I still wanted to make this video to share both sides of it with you guys, and maybe like you just find it interesting, or maybe you're considering a studio space for yourself. So let's get into that part now. I'm going to share the pros and cons of working in both the studio and from home. And I'll start with the studio just because now I am in the home situation and I feel like I have a few more things that were important to me that kind of swayed me to work from here. So the studio is good because you're able to wake up every morning and go to work. Like, it was very good for my motivation to get up and have somewhere to go and get ready. And my studio opened at 9 a.m. every day, which is a great amount of time because if I like slept in, I could just wake up and go. But it was also like if I woke up at 7-ish, I had some time to do emails, and then when I got to the studio, it felt like I could be more creative there. So being able to have somewhere to go, and then also being able to like separate my mindsets was really good, because when you have an online business, there's a certain like hole you can go down. Like, you could just keep answering emails, tweaking your website, finding all these digital things to do. But if you're in the space and the headspace to paint, you will. So it was kind of nice for me to have that creative transition, and so that was definitely a positive. Another one, of course, is that there are other creatives there working, so it's always nice to have people to talk to and just say hello to. Like, I am very aware that when you work from home, you are so by yourself. Sometimes I go eat lunch with my mom at her work, and I'm like, wow, there are so many people here, because she has a cafeteria, and there's just hundreds of people who work there, and I'm like, this is so interesting. Like, I'm just by myself in my own head all day. So being around other people is definitely a positive, and it makes you feel like not so alone. I will say that I think a lot of people find a studio space outside of their home appealing because they're not as motivated perhaps, which is nothing bad, but a lot of people are very motivated by being around others who are working, and I am too. Like, going to a coffee shop especially, I enjoy that everyone is there and focused and working, but I am very motivated on my own, so that's why working from home I think works for me. I don't have as much trouble getting motivated, especially when I have a busy schedule and a full to-do list. I'm like, okay, it is crunch time, we are going. But I know some people really need that. I know that too because of architecture school. The studio environment, that you have a place to go work, is so important, and being around your friends, especially when you're going to be up until like 4 a.m. or pulling an all-nighter. In that situation, it is definitely nice to have other people around, but just for the day-to-day, I don't mind that I need it as much, but I do kind of miss being there and seeing some of my friends. Like I said, it was also next door to my favorite coffee shop, which was awesome because if I needed to sneak away and have some laptop time or meet a client for a meeting, we could go over there. Sometimes we could meet in the studio space too, but it was often a little bit distracting, so it was nice to have that there. Especially now working from home, I do have to meet my clients outside of my home in coffee shops or other locations, just because I like to be very safe. Like, I could completely trust someone, but I usually would meet them in a coffee shop. Just a good protocol to have. And then the coffee shop was also cool because, of course, coffee, and I love drinking it, but I am like pretty frugal too, so it was kind of dangerous that I was outside of my home all the time, because I would just like be so tempted to buy my lunch, buy my dinner, buy my breakfast, buy coffee. And it was a little bit like the ease of not being able to just cook a meal right there was difficult for me, and I couldn't just like cook at home. I'd have to pack a lunch. So that did end up being a con for me, because working from home, you can cook all of your meals and save money, eat healthier, like make my own lattes. So it's kind of like a pro and a con to both, but you know. And then the one thing that was a little bit hard for me, which would not be applicable to most studio situations, but I actually didn't have any wall space in my studio, so it was very open, which I loved. Like, it was very easy to just like chat with people, and it was so bright and light and open, and I could have put up my own walls. Like, I definitely could have. It's just something I never got around to. But not having any wall space was tricky for me because you guys know in my studio, I have separated lists. So I have one for all my current clients, one for all my personal projects. Like I'll put my inventories up on the wall, all my to-dos. So it's really important for me to be able to visualize all of that. And then it's also important for me to have wall space to hang paintings because I was starting to have an influx of paintings and I had like a makeshift shelf I had made, but it couldn't quite hold everything and it was just getting a little bit tricky without the walls, but that would not be applicable in most situations. The only other hard thing was that I didn't have 24/7 access to the studio, and even if I did, I don't think it would have been as appealing to me as working from home. So to explain, a lot of times, like, Jake usually comes home around 6 from work, but sometimes it'll be 3 or 4 or 5. And then lately on Fridays, he's been staying home and studying for the GRE because he's applying to grad school. So in the situation that he's home on Fridays, it's really fun that we can be home working together. And it wouldn't be as fun if I was just like tucked away, closed off in my studio somewhere and we couldn't be spending that time together. So it's just nice that our home is like the hub of everything and I'm here no matter what. And then if I'm like still working and he comes home at 3, like from 3 to 6, like he can just be hanging out, but I can still be answering emails and we can still be talking. So it's just like not having to coordinate spending that time together. Like I don't have to rush home or like be bummed out that we're like missing out on that. And it's just nice that I can just kind of continue what I'm doing and be like, hey, how's it going? And then keep going. And it's not like I have to adjust myself. That's just kind of an interesting thing. And then like also, without having 24/7 access, my studio was closed sometimes in the evenings, like on a certain day, and then on like Sundays. And I really do try to shut off on the weekends and not do too much work. And it's really nice for me to be able to just do a few things here and there. Like I really am a productive person. I don't love sitting still a ton. So even if Jake and I are just watching a show, it's fun for me to be able to like be writing thank you notes or shipping an order out or even painting. And that was kind of hard too. Like a lot of times if it wasn't even like a commission and I just wanted to paint for fun, because I do like to paint every day if I can, it was kind of a bummer that my supplies were locked away and I couldn't be working with them at home, and then I always had to remember like what to pack up that weekend. It just like not everything was at my fingertips. So that's just another reason why working from home has been good for me. So I guess I will transition now to talking about all of the positives that are enabled from working from home for myself, and I've already talked about quite a few of them, so I will try not to be repetitive. Like I said, eating healthier. I cook so many meals and I'll like go to the grocery store in between my day, and this is going to sound like very old-fashioned, but it's kind of always been appealing to me to kind of be a homemaker in a way. And I don't necessarily want to like be a stay-at-home mom one day. That's like not my goal. But it has always been appealing to me to like have my own place and, you know, decorate the way I want to and keep it nice and clean and have everything like in order and fresh. Just keep everything cozy and fresh. So it's very nice to be able to just do things here and there. Like my friend is an oil painter and she's a mom of 2 kids, and we text about stuff and she's like, yeah, I gotta say, like, there's nothing better than being able to throw in a load of laundry and then go back to work. And it's kind of true. Like, I don't have that burden of like coming home at the end of the day and being really tired and still having like all my chores to do. And I don't feel like I have to like do all my chores on the weekend. And I think I kind of picked up on this because my dad has worked from home for a long time. Even though he's not self-employed, he works for a company from home, but he's always like cleaning here and there, doing a little laundry here and there, running an errand. So it's kind of nice to do that. So especially like I'll go work out in the middle of the day and I'll come home and I'm kind of hot, and then I'll like clean the house while I'm still hot, and then I'll shower, and then I'll get back into my work day. So being able to break it up like that is good. I also think that I really flourish on being able to change up my environment and what I'm doing often. So it's nice for me to be like, okay, I'm going to answer emails for an hour and then clean the kitchen and then I'm going to paint and then I'm going to do this. Like I like to segment things up, and it's just a luxury, honestly. So that's always kind of appealed to me, to like make my home nice. So I like being able to do that and cook, or like maybe get dinner started before Jake gets home too. Hashtag 1950s housewife, I swear. Another thing that's been really good for me, like I said, my studio space that I rented was a 10 by 10, and I needed like a little bit more breathing room than that. So the studio space that Jake and I share is 11 by 9, and he does take up like, you know, maybe like a 3-foot wide, like long portion. I think he feels like he has plenty of space in there. So we have that we share, and then also there's a closet attached, and the closet has just been crucial for me. I put all of my inventories of products in there, as well as all of my packing, shipping supplies like bubble wrap, envelopes, stickers, like print packaging, and being able to contain all of that and not have it like in the way of all of my art supplies and like the creative space is really nice. And I even just recently like reorganized the whole closet interior. I swear a studio tour is coming. I think it should come next week. I'm gonna be out of town, but maybe the week after, because now that I've talked about this, I can like properly show you guys the home studio. But I even made this little area where all of my inventory is organized, so if someone orders like 2 pins, I can just easily go in there, grab the pins, grab the shipping envelope, like grab the postcard, and then it's just like assembly. And before, it was really tricky when I had the studio space, because I was often like bringing in shipping supplies and I didn't have like a designated shipping supply area. And I also, this is a big one, I did not keep my printer at my studio just because it's a more expensive item and it was really important to me to keep it safe, and I would still print from home. So this one might also be something that most artists might not have a dilemma with, but since I print all my shipping labels, I print my letterhead, I print receipts, and then I also make my own art prints, it was really tricky for me to not have that printer there and just be able to easily fulfill the orders. So for a long time I was like fulfilling all my orders at my home space still, and then sometimes I would like be bringing all this stuff in. It was honestly just a lot of back and forth for me. Like I would get all the way to the studio and I would forget my lunch and my headphones. Or the studio would open at 9 and I would work there from 9 to 10:30, but then I had to go to my workout and then I had to go home and shower before coming back to the studio. And it's been nice just to have it all in one place, because I can like work out, come home, and I can still like answer emails like before I shower or like while I'm sitting there in my towel. Like it's just kind of condensed everything, which is definitely particular to my personality and the way my business runs, but it might be applicable to you too. The next thing is that my focus here has just been unmatched. I am so focused. I definitely think that like working in silence or being able to choose the music I listen to or the podcast and play it out loud has been so nice for me. It's kind of hard to like always have headphones in. Sometimes I even find painting with headphones difficult because like the headphones drag in the paint. So anyway, I just really do well when I can like be in control of my environment, if that makes sense. Okay, what else? I'm looking at my list here. I already talked about working at night. There's a few more things I didn't touch on yet, and they are huge for me. So one of them is being able to style art in my home. So as you guys have seen, I'm sure, most of my Instagram now is scenarios like this one where I style a painting and I can photograph it. Or you guys know I launched my new collection last week and I shot that all at home with the day lighting and with different backgrounds and styling images, and that is so nice for me because I do think it's really important to show my art in a lifestyle setting or in a home setting. So being able to just pick up the art and put it in my own home as home decor and take photos that way is huge for me. It's also really nice because I get to live with my paintings for a while like this and enjoy them until they go off to a new home. So I kind of feel like I get to spend time with them and enjoy the art before it goes off elsewhere. And it's also good for me from an artistic perspective because I kind of can look at the piece and analyze it and think about what I would do differently next time. Or I just realized I think I've been really blurry for this whole clip. Yep. Okay, sorry about that, guys. That always happens when I film myself. So yeah, styling, photo shoots, so good. And then the last thing, which I'm doing now, is filming. Filming is such a big part of what I do. It connects me to you guys. I can vlog, I can show my painting. And while I was able to film like silent videos, like time lapse, I couldn't vlog and I couldn't Snapchat. And I remember that there was a time when I got my new studio that I was just so much more quiet on Snapchat because I really could only Snapchat me like leading up to the studio and me leaving, and I couldn't communicate with you as much. And not all artists are gonna have this problem. Not everyone Snapchats and vlogs their life like I do, but it's so important to me that I'm connected with you guys in that way and I can share with you. And it was really doing myself a disservice, my business, you guys, to not be able to share and communicate and talk to you like this. And if I wanted to sit down and film a video, I couldn't just have spur of the moment inspiration and sit down and film like I am now. I had to really plan it out more. So it's really been nice to have a filming space, to have the freedom to do that. I literally talk to myself all day at home, so if you're ever wondering what it's like when I'm here, that's all I'm doing, just talking to myself. I can live stream, I can, you know, record a video, I can do a voiceover for your video, that's really important too. That's probably one of the biggest things. So yeah, that has been kind of the positive and the negatives of both. As you can see, there are advantages to all of them. Luckily, working from home, I think there's a few more things that are really important that outweigh the studio space I was renting, the filming, the styling from home, being able to spend more time with Jake. Those are all really big for me. And I think it's just a matter of deciding what works for you, what are the most important core values to you in your life and your business, and you'll be able to figure it out for yourself. But I thought it was kind of an interesting discussion to share. So if you guys have any thoughts on it, maybe you've worked from home and a studio, maybe you've only done one, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. I know some artists have to have their own studio space, they have to get away, they have to get out of their own head. I think in my dream world, I would still have a home studio, but it would be like a guest house, like separated from my house, just so I had a lot more room and I could kind of walk out there and like be surrounded by a garden. You know, one day, guys. Hashtag goals. That's what we're always working towards. All right, fast forward, my camera was dying and I had to leave for a couple meetings. So I'm filming this video now that it's like after 5 o'clock, but all I was gonna do was wrap it up. So that's what I'm gonna do now, and you're hearing my Invisalign voice. So I hope this video was interesting and helpful to you, and if you haven't already, I would love if you gave this video a thumbs up. Lets me know that you enjoyed it, and if you have a friend that you think would enjoy it, please share it with them, send them a link, tweet it to them, whatever. If you're not already subscribed, we would love to have you here. There's always something creative and new and exciting happening, and I upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Wednesdays are painting videos and Fridays are vlogs, so that is coming out this week as well. And that's all I have to say. So thank you again so much for watching, guys. I will talk to you in my next one, and until then, I'm sending all of my positive and creative vibes your way. Bye!